One lady.
To show you more.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid somebody might ask me a question. Oh, no. I can take that. So, this will mic us differently.
Oh. Do you want me to scoot over?
I'll scoot over.
I promise I don't. I promise I don't have cooties.
It's going to be like an intense interview.
I know. Okay. I don't bite, Brian. I promise.
I'm not going to take 60 seconds. Okay. Just to breathe. The topic and this year. Getting old, I need reading glasses.
I got contacts,
I
Brian.
have contacts for distance reading glasses. I'm a mess.
These are all strategically placed, Brian. I tell you every contacting season. There's a small army that keeps me looking like I'm still 35. At least I seem to think that.
All the very direct. The reservoirs. Brian says.
Very like, I was like, can I skip? Can I?
Well, it's funny, they take your bio.
Yeah.
Because you read how they come back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make some edits there.
That's fine. You can talk about how amazing I am.
Yeah,
Good
Research
friend.
continues.
I mean, I'm in.
The next, the call that you were
Yeah, feel free to add, some fun anecdotes.
Oh, got it. All right. Yeah, that's
talk about our days back in Elizabeth.
Go back in Elizabeth and talk about terminals of snowflakes.
focus group.
Mr. Muller.
And Mr. Muller. Feel free.
I just don't think this audience would get this.
I don't think they would. It's fair. It's fair. You're good showing.
Yeah, not bad for a breakout.
Not
There's
good.
four of them going on.
Exactly.
You ready? I did this a couple of years ago, and then I had the number screwed up. So it was literally like,
Hello,
You said you had another event this
Hi.
week or last week?
and welcome. Welcome to this, the first of our breakout sessions. My name is David Womack. I represent Division 2 on the DOT Board of Directors, and it's my pleasure here to welcome y'all to this, what I think will be a very educational and hopefully enlightening presentation here. I need to ask if you haven't already downloaded the app, the event app, please do. It'll not only keep you up with the events as they occur, but also give you access to our polling questions. So if you do that before you leave, if you haven't, we'd appreciate that. So we're very excited to have you join us today. I think the topic is extremely current and appropriate. The title of this session is Solution or Setback, using AI to minimize operations and maximize spending. And we have a great panel of experts here, and I would also like to include in that panel of experts moderator Brian Clark. Brian is the executive director of the North Carolina Ports Association, and so if you'll all welcome Brian to the podium here, he'll introduce the moderators and get things going.
Thank you, David, and thank you for your leadership on the Board of Transportation. Thank you for everyone being here today. And as David mentioned, we do have a great group of panelists that we're going to hear from. We have some short presentations, and then we're going to follow that up with some questions that we've planned, and as well as opening it up to the audience. Our first speaker today is Dr. Erez Agmani. He serves as a co-founder and general partner at Interwoven Ventures, investing in early-stage robotics, AI, and automation startups transforming supply chains and industrial operations. He sources opportunities, guides portfolio companies, and builds partnerships across the venture ecosystem. With over 25 years of global experience in supply chain management, freight forwarding, logistics, engineering, and digital innovation, he excels at creating sophisticated, scalable solutions for complex supply chain challenges. Previously, Erez served as a global head of innovation at Maersk, leading the Maersk Innovation Center's 3 pillars: automation, digital, and product innovation, and fostering collaborations with internal teams, customers, government, and venture partners. He holds a bachelor's degree in computer engineering, a master's in telecommunication science, and a PhD in organizational development. His career has spanned time in Israel, Asia, Latin America, and is now based in New Jersey. Please join me in welcoming Erez Agmani.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you survived after lunch. So it's a tough spot to be and starting it. Thank you, Brian, for introducing me. What we'll talk today a little bit about AI, about what it can be done. Is it a solution or a setback, as the title of this whole panel is talking about. And I'll give you a few examples of things that I tested and tried either in my previous life or in my current role of things. So just a few contact details in case you'd like to contact after that, but no need to further introducing myself after Brian's good job here. So I want to start with an interesting article or research that I just read recently by MIT. MIT just published about a month ago a research that 95% of all AI projects, industry that investing 30 to 40 billion a year, is actually failing, which is, if you think for a second, that's an amazing amount of failure, 95%. And that caused, of course, a lot of reaction. AI is a hoax, AI is just a hype, it's not really the right things for the organizations. And of course, on the other side, there was a lot of people that pushed back and said, no, that's not the case. So I want to talk a little bit about that because 95% is not failing because of the AI itself. When heading the innovation at Maersk, I saw that happening both inside Maersk, but also with many of Maersk customers when we kind of collaborated with. It's really the approach to innovation and to AI as a specific type of innovation where teams are actually not taking the right approach. The leadership are not taking the right approach to deal with innovation. A lot of the time, people just jumping on it, trying something small, and yes, this is great or failure, and just moving on. If it's not successful, they move on. and they're not trying to solve what's what really serious problem. So if you're looking into the different 5%, those that successful, plus all the experience that I had before, kind of, they're all sharing a specific DNA of success. People that actually made it through the innovation activity, made it through the AI, they start small. They start with a very small, narrow problem that's still impactful enough. They're testing that. They're showing a return on investment over there, and they plan beyond that. They embedded it with the workflow. They embedded it with the people. They're not just, okay, we do it in a lab outside of the day-to-day business, and yeah, if it's success, great, let's try to impose it on people. They do it in the collaboration with the front line. They insist on learning systems, especially with AI. You want the systems to not be fed again and again with something that's supposed to know already, because otherwise users are kind of giving up on that. And they really want all those things to come together. I'll share a few examples on success stories there. But really, this is what's causing innovation to be successful. And if you want to be successful with AI and actually create an impact, that is the way to really follow small steps, but important steps. This is a few examples that I wanted to share. You can see, I'll start with a pure transportation type of movement. On the left, you see autonomous yard tractors or autonomous yard goats, depend how you want to call it. Basically, using a lot of computer vision and AI in order to manipulate how to drive inside the yard. You see there's no driver over there. Able to put containers really on spot in between 1 feet on each side of empty slots. On the right, you can see an autonomous rail solution. Very, very interesting company, LA-based, but actually having projects not so far from here, just a little bit southern than here. Autonomous rail moves that taking actually what the rail companies do not like to handle with. The rail companies normally likes to take the long hauls because it costs them the same amount of money to move 1 hour to move 12 hours, and they can actually charge much more for the 12 hours move. So they kind of don't like it. The trucking company also don't like normally the first leg, the drayage leg, because it's a lot of waiting times at the ports. Not all ports are super efficient around the country. Sometimes you have a lot of waiting. Average time of drayage per day, it's about 1.8 to 2.2 moves per day around the country. LA is probably the worst. This side of the country is probably better. But you're doing very little with the same amount of trucks, and basically after it goes to rest. So this is where it comes. AI is basically moving it autonomously, bringing it 2 or 3 hours off the port, and let the trucks actually take it from there to distribute it to the local and back and forth probably 5 to 6 times. So both cases, hardware combination with AI, really a good combination between the physical world and the AI, bringing us to next level, things that are already up and running and have customers to. So this is not a fiction, this is not a 5 years time, this is actually happening today. Let's look at some other transportation in a much bigger scale. So we looked in the past at about 1 million shipments from China to the US. So from the moment shipment is getting into China port until it's in the DC of the customer in the US. And a lot of customers always complain, oh, transit time is not good, transportation, logistics is not doing a good job. And I was like, what are you talking about? Let's look into that. And you see that graph there over there, the normal distribution almost, which is actually from 30 days to 120 days. So that section between China port to DC, 30 to 120 days. Just think what is the meaning of that. Most customers, most retailers, most of the people that really buy cargo, buy goods, they can't base it on an average because that means that 50% of the goods will not be there on time. So they normally do it based on a 90 percentile, 95 percentile. So they put in their ERP system something around 100 days, 110 days. Now, a lot of the goods already arriving in the 70 days, 60 days. You have if you look at the graph, it's probably somewhere around 80-something percentile over there. And that means that they cannot use the goods because in the system it's not there yet. That means that money tied into inventory that nobody is using potentially even have to be removed again from one place to another because they don't know yet where demand is. That led us to multiple workloads of let's see how can we use AI to solve that. We started with a small movement between LA and Memphis just to look at how trucks are moving. So we utilized IoT devices and AI capabilities to really look down and how people driving, what do they do, what is my best route to choose there. And if you just Google map it, you'll see that the northern route, let's call it, the one on the top, it's actually showing you 30 hours of driving nonstop. Of course, we all know that there is very little of nonstop driving. So actually, it takes 4 to 6 days over there. Sorry, 5 to 7 days over there. And then the southern route shows 32 hours of direct driving. And that's actually a 4 to 6 days when you actually look at reality. So of course, people stopping more, but you can't understand why do they stop more. But the AI helped us to understand where do they stop more, what's going on around that. And when we actually talked to some of the drivers, we realized that it's all about driving lots, parking lots for the drivers when they need actually to rest, and they don't find a space, so they know that they won't find a space when they reach to the maximum driving hours, so they start looking to stop way before that, 2 or 3 stops before that. And that's where they don't maximize the amount of driving. So we kind of worked with MIT actually to create a solution with AI. What you see on the bottom is to say, okay, for this week shipment that starts somewhere in Asia, how should I route it in order to repeat again and again the same transit time? So I don't want it to be 30, I don't want it to be 120. I want it to be, let's say, 57 plus minus 3. Whatever we agree with the customer, it's an important element. And that's basically help us utilizing AI capabilities to understand what is the predictive elements of each of these legs, combining them all together, repredict it again, and finding, hey, is there any problems occurring along the way? Is there any different problems that might be occurring based on something that is already happening somewhere else? And kind of bring it into the right level. It's still under testing, but it shows very, very interesting results. And I think this can actually, I'll talk about this slightly later, how this can actually be taken to the next level even. Let's look at a few other examples. Here you see actually things within the warehouse, utilizing AI. On the left side, you see basically an AI and computer vision trying to understand how things moving on conveyors and when jam will happen on a conveyor. There is also an IoT device, that yellow stuff that you see there, that actually coming and telling us when we will have things that fails on the automation. So based on heat and vibration and some machine learning there, you start to realize and analyze the data that you collect and say, okay, this motor probably will fail in the next few days, go and service it right now before it fails. That's how you actually can do all those preventing maintenance during the off-peak and off times in the day, and then fix things not in the middle of the shift. What you see on the right, this is another interesting solution. We try to solve for how can we improve the unloading, the manual unloading of containers when it comes to deconsolidation warehouses. So remember, the deconsolidation warehouses getting containers, and then they need to distribute the contents of that to multiple trucks that goes to different DCs. So it's very difficult to count it just by, okay, how many boxes inside in order to understand how long it will take, because it's depend on the number of boxes, the weight, the number of splits that you're going to have, to how many trucks of DC is going to go, the heat on that day, how many people are working there. We try multiple ways, fail again one after another, and actually came up to this solution at the end using basically computer vision and AI to understand. You see the blue line is telling us how much it's completed. It can recognize how many people, the green, or what kind of equipment is there, and ended up 82% of on-the-minute accuracy. which 82% is far away from being absolutely 100%, but that's perfectly compared to what we had before. Before you ask the supervisor, one would say 6 hours, another 11 hours. It was all over the place. Now you are 82% of the time really can start doing stuff with that. Now, think about this communicating with autonomous trucks that's working in the yard. Now you can actually start to prepare the next move even before you finish, because you know, in 15 minutes I will finish this container. You tell the autonomous trucks to start to pick up the next container and bring it close enough so it can do a quick switch, and instead of an hour turns around on the door, you probably can do it in 7 or 10 minutes. So if you connect all these type of elements, it really can bring an amazing end-to-end supply chain through the transportation. Just the last one, it's really kind of, I won't talk too much about that, but you see there is so many different robotics that utilizing AI to understand where to place things on the warehouse, how to pick things, what will be the best way to kind of slot things inside the warehouse itself, and of course, maneuvering things in the warehouse utilizing AI and computer vision. Now think about what I was talking about before, the work that we did with MIT. If you combine that with this, you can actually create an idea that you also take exceptions and let the AI start to deal with that and say, okay, I know that I have certain warehouses with certain robotics capabilities, so I don't need to teach the people on how to do this work. And I can send it to those warehouses because that will be able to learn from one warehouse to another, because the systems can actually transfer the knowledge and take action based on that to actually bring end-to-end supply chain in a much more resilient way. So just wanted to share all these few examples of AI, and I believe at the end of the day that AI is really going to take us further, but we will talk about this next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erez. Our second speaker is Kate Josworth. Kate is the head of first mile drayage products for the U.S. for Maersk. Her scope includes solution design, pricing, and performance for customers needing trucking services for their intact ocean containers across 12 trucking terminals and brokerage functions. This represents a portfolio of over 650,000 truck moves a year. Kate has 19 years of experience within the maritime logistics industry across operations, procurement, and commercial functions. Additionally, she's assisting Maersk with the development plans to enable the transition from diesel to battery electric vehicles to support Maersk's 2040 sustainability goals. Kate holds a Master of Science in Supply Chain Management from the University of Tennessee, where she completed her master's thesis on the need to balance a dual fleet of diesel and battery electric Class 8 trucks. Just found out during lunch, she also has her CDL and maintains her minimum hours driving a truck yearly. So please join me in welcoming Kate Josworth.
Thanks, Brian, for that anecdote. You never know what you learn at lunch. So, Kate Josworth, head of First Mile Solutions for Maersk USA, and thank you for coming to listen to our panel. So for those that don't know who Maersk is, let me give you a little bit of a background. So Maersk is more than just blue ships and containers. We are fully integrated logistics solutions for our customers. So we are able to pick up raw materials at a customer's warehouse, and stuff it, deliver it, assemble it in your house through our heavy, bulky divisions. This has been a bit of a departure from how some might traditionally know Maersk as just an ocean carrier. We aim to be the global integrator of supply chains for our customers. To rationalize a bit of how our scope is here in North Carolina, we're proud to call the Port of Wilmington home for several of our ships. We have 2 heavy, bulky warehouses that we use to support customer deliveries here in the state of North Carolina. A cold storage facility used for in-temp, ambient, and frozen needs in the Port of Wilmington. And we actually have one of our operational headquarters based in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I happily call home. So we have quite a large presence here in North Carolina to help with offering those integrated solutions for our customers. What does this translate into? Maersk largely transports and touches roughly 20% of the global goods that we need to survive and thrive across the world. And we continue to do that every day by trying to find more solutions for our customers, enabling technologies to assist with that so we can continue to offer cutting-edge logistics services. So that brings us to our point here, and hopefully why you decided to come, hearing a little bit more how we're trying to use and adapt AI into providing those solutions for our customers. Our solution and our learning journey into AI has really been built on 3 pillars of educate, experiment, and execute. We really started our transition into AI in 2023, where we had an internal rollout of AI training, efficiencies, learning how to prompt, having a target group of developers as well as general staff really trying to pilot test the technology and how we could use it to help adapt our everyday lives to benefit our customers internally. In May 2024, we outlined our AI policy internally, which really created education and governance and ethical standards around how we'll use AI to support our data privacy as well as our needs that we develop for customers. Really what we focused on with this development of AI is how can we make life easier for our staff? How do we find ways that we can take the cumbersome data collection empower our customers as well as our team members in using that time to drive solutions for our customers. One of the biggest questions we get globally every day is, where is my container? When will it arrive? What is the delivery date? So by using AI, using the data aggregations, we're able to then pull all those needed data inputs from our systems to enable our frontline staff to quickly answer those customers' questions. So through our AI development, one of the elements is they're able to look at where a container is, provide the latest status update, check it with a click of a button, get a response back to our customers. Our AI focus has largely been driven on how do we make solutions faster for customers, drive solutions for our front staff, and how do we do more with less? So how do we enable our staff to take better time at finding data, instead of data gathering, solutions engineering for our staff? So very similar to what Dr. Erez gave, I'm going to give you some insights in one of the great projects that we're really excited that we've been able to roll out for our customers. So I present to you what's called Project Prism. So Project Prism is a project that we've developed through using AI to assist with one of our customers' biggest pain points: schedule reliability, transit time delays. How many people in your day-to-day have waited and had that UPS rescheduling component in your lives for something that you needed? Raise your hand. Yep. Imagine that being your 40-foot container full of raw materials that you need for a production line. Imagine that you've been told that maybe your container will arrive next week if it catches the next ship. These are all a lot of the components that led to some of the supply chain delays that we all felt during the COVID pandemic. And that was really what spurred on our really wanting to dive in deep to AI and figure out how we can solve those customer pain points for our customers. So how we're able to do it is we work with our customers to offer an end-to-end supply chain delivery window. So at time of booking, we look at what is the routes the cargo needs to take, and then we work with our customers in determining we're able to give you a plus or minus 3-day delivery window for that cargo. For our customers, that enables for them to take out some of that safety stock that they have to keep. That's additional capital expenditures that they don't have to put in inventory. What allows for them to cut down those inventory levels and plan with their other downstream suppliers for labor planning, production lines, etc. How we've been able to do this is through the power of AI, using information from multiple systems, keeping a constant watch on the status flows of cargo, pulling in data from weather forecasting, transit times, vessel delays, and then developing a playbook. If we get your cargo off by 1 day, what is the first step we take? If we see that cargo's 2 days off, what is that step we take? And that is all powered by AI and using the data combinations to help give us forward upstream indications on we need to pull something from our playbook to keep that cargo on track. One of the ways that we do it, of course, is that we do have a network of terminals fully within our scope. We have shifted our vessel partners and are more in control of our vessel network. We have one of the highest reliabilities for ocean on time, which assists us in being able to offer customers that delivery guarantee promise. So what you see on the screen is one of the ways and some of the standards that we're able to offer. So we're able to use analytics to know what the variability of supply chains timelines are on certain routes. We're then able to overlay that with different options we have in our playbooks, such as can we all motor something versus putting it on the train? Do we need to change up the vessel network and the intended vessels that we were going to use for this to get that cargo back on track? All of those little shifts enables for us to offer that supply chain guarantee within plus or minus 3 days. Because we've taken the need for data pulling out, and we now empower our local staff to drive solutions and results, and to take that time to do the extra care for our customers because they don't have to waste hours pulling reports. We're now able to use analytics to give insights to our customers on the status. We also can offer dynamic supply chain. So if we need to forward something or delay something, that's also what we can do. That's all part of that guaranteed promise that we can offer to customers. So we're able, if we see that one of our customers' supply chains is perhaps needing to run late, a production plan has changed, they no longer need a certain SKU, we're able to offer in-transit storage. So that's all part of those conversations that we have with our customers to find solutions. To say, okay, you know what, you're not going to need that SKU for 3 days, 4 days, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Rather than paying for it to sit in a warehouse, let's keep it in that container. We can keep it in one of our ports so it's intact. You don't have to worry about opening up those doors for security and cargo theft. And we can then offer you solutions and still keep your cargo on track for what your changing supply needs are. Delay in transit, so we can offer this in roughly 8 different ports around the world, where we literally just put that cargo in a stack for you. You let us know within 72 hours when you need it. We pull it out of the stack and we put it on the next available ship to take it back on its cargo journey. We found this was it benefited a lot of our customers during some of the tariff disruptions that we see, and that they're able to hold cargo in transit while they understand what the prevailing tariff ramifications will be. So we do whatever it takes. So when we have a customer that signs up for Project Prism, and I've been through many of these rule book decisions myself, is we really sit down and imagine spitballing anything and everything that could go wrong with a customer's cargo in your region. Then you see it to do the fun part of brainstorming solutions. How we'll do it. Will we need to transload cargo, take it out of the container? Do we need to all motor it versus trucking it? Do we need to air freight it in some cases to keep that cargo on track for our customers? These are all part of the rule book generation that we use. And then we use the power of AI to make sure we're monitoring that cargo and giving us those pings and prompts for, you're running 4 days late. Do you need to maybe pull out Rule C to help the customer's cargo stay on track? So here's a real world example of some of the decisions that we make. So this would be an example of when we saw some of the crisis in the Red Sea and we needed to divert cargo. Here you'll see the matrix of how we work. So you'll see that we started off saying that the non-Prism was going to take roughly, it'd be there by the 13th of February, so 10 days after we had guaranteed the cargo for a customer. Significant amount of safety stock you need to keep, significant amount of capital you need to keep engaged in inventory because of that 10-day variability. Once the customer started with Prism, you can then see the list of decisions that we make because we real-time monitor the cargo to know, do we need to put rulebook A, B, C, D to keep that customer's transit cargo within that 3-day variability. All that's done through AI. It's giving us those prompts. It's giving us those notifications. Could this be done without AI? Sure. Does it take a full army of people to monitor? Yes. So really, AI allows for us to offer solutions to our customers using our resources efficiently and effectively so they can be more solutions engineering versus reporting on the news of your cargo is delayed. In general, so far, 97% of the promised cargo that's run through Prism has arrived on time. It's something that a lot of auto manufacturers, for instance, are really starting to embrace to enable them to really look at their production planning, especially as we start to see tariffs and not wanting to bring in too much of something right now based off of your production plan. Prism allows for them to confidently be able to take out those supply chain buffer days and really be able to make sure that they're allocating their costs in the most appropriate manner for their inventory levels. Really, where Maersk has really embraced AI is how do we more efficiently use our resources. Our best resources are our employees, and giving our employees the power to solutions engineer and being able to really help guide them in forward-thinking, embracing new technology is really what is setting Maersk apart. We have great ambitions to grow, but in order to grow, we need to do that by using our resources effectively, and that's really where we see the power of AI really helping to drive logistics in the future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kate. And our final speaker today is Eric Johnson. Eric is the Journal of Commerce's senior editor of technology, where he leads coverage and analysis of technology's impact on global logistics and trade. He regularly reports on how shippers, carriers across all modes, and logistics companies use software, as well as new concepts impacting core freight transportation processes like procurement, execution, visibility, and payment. Eric is a regular presenter and moderator at industry events and webinars. Prior to joining the JOC in May of 2018, he spent 13 years with American Shipper in a variety of roles, most recently covering logistics technology and leading the production of a series of benchmark studies on the logistics industry. He has a bachelor's in journalism from the University of Wisconsin and a master's in international business from the University of Leeds. He has lived and worked in Southern California, the UK, and India, and now resides in the Washington, D.C. area. Please join me in welcoming Eric Johnson.
Okay, how's everybody doing? That was cool stuff. A lot to take in. Okay, just really briefly, Journal of Commerce, a little bit more background so you know sort of what I do and who I write for. As Brian said, thanks, Brian, and thanks to the NCDOT for having me. We write for cargo owners and all the various companies that cater to cargo owners. So, and my job is to help them understand this wild, crazy world of technology, which now, for better or for worse, includes AI. What am I doing on stage right now? It's a good question. I sort of asked myself this. As Brian said, my background is in journalism. I went to school for journalism. I have no degree in AI, and no, I'm not a doctor, not a PhD. I've never studied this stuff. I couldn't code my way out of a paper bag. The fact I'm even in front of you, it makes my wife chuckle at night. So why am I here? Well, I think one reason is I have the benefit of getting to speak with a lot of people in various nodes of supply chains and understand what they struggle with and what technology they are being sold and are using to solve those problems. So I get this sort of very interesting sort of cross-section of information and perspective on what works and what doesn't in technology from the providers themselves and then from the users. So one sort of caveat with what I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about some of the physical stuff that Erez kind of went in. That stuff is super interesting. Robotics, the merging of AI with the physical world is absolutely captivating and fascinating and probably farther along than anything. But that's not the area I specialize. I mostly focus on people using software and the role that AI is playing in that. So I think one other thing I'll mention is I view my role predominantly in helping people sharpen their focus around what they do or don't need to invest in. And generally those come in two flavors. As Kate really eloquently put, Maersk is viewing this right now, first and foremost, as a way to get the most out of their resources, right? How do you wring as much production and critical thinking out of the people that you have? So that's one way of using these types of technologies. The other is to sort of grow a market or a share of the pie, so make the pie bigger. So that's kind of big picture how I look at the world from a technology perspective. And AI is a tool in that world that I look at. So really quick, a poll. I have 3 questions for you. Who right now is using AI in their day-to-day life? Okay. Is that work, personal? Who's using it for work? And who's using it for personal? Okay, you finding it's pretty much intersecting at this point, like the same tools? So when I say AI, does the first thing that comes to your mind, is it ChatGPT or is it something else? Copilot, ChatGPT, one of those things? Or is it like those scary Boston Dynamics dogs that are gonna tackle us in our sleep at night? Is it ChatGPT for the most part, right? The last question I'll ask is, raise your hand if you think you could really adequately describe AI to a family member who has no idea what AI is. So I think that's where we're at right now, and if there's no shame and I am also there, right? Even though I'm standing in front of you, I don't know the bare bones, the foundational aspects of AI, and probably nor do we need to, actually. So that's something I would highlight. All right, let me get on to the presentation here. Okay, so I think as I was sort of alluding to, AI is a tree with many branches, and branches off of branches. LLMs and ChatGPT, Gen AI, the things that we've had thrown in our face over and over the last few years, one branch off of a main branch, okay? There's so much more to AI than just ChatGPT or even those scary Boston Dynamics dogs. Neural networks, deep learning, fuzzy logic. Erez, you're going to have to explain that. That's very fuzzy to me. Robotics, obviously, computer vision, natural language processing. All of these things are parts of the AI tree. And again, to the extent that you want to be oblivious to this, by all means, go touch grass, live life. Like, it's not important that we all understand what all of these things mean, right? But just be cognizant that it is more than just the ChatGPT or Copilot app on your phone. It's far more than that. It's literally everywhere. Every single software company is using and has been using AI to build the products that they build forever. So on your phone, you've been, way before you knew what ChatGPT was, AI was doing a whole bunch of stuff on your behalf. That's an indirect use of AI. You also now have these tools where you can directly use AI. So that's one kind of fork in the road in terms of how you think about, or should think about this. Okay, so another fork that I think about is a company going to invest in this is, do they want to automate something that is repetitive, boring, not very value add, but has to be done? Or do they want sort of an intelligence system to make a decision for them, right? I think the automation part, and by the way, a lot of people still to this day conflate automation with AI. Automation is not AI, AI is not automation. You can use AI to automate something, just to clarify on that. But a lot of the AI right now the products are being used to automate something that a company would rather have its employees not do because they make a lot of errors, or they can only do it for 8 hours a day instead of 24. You get the picture. Decision-making is starting to become a much more prevalent part of this process, this decision-making process. But that goes back to something that Erez put up, which is trust. Not just the person, but does the organization trust that system to make a decision in the same way that it would trust a human to? I mean, we're all over the map in terms of whether we're there yet, but every corporation right now is on that sort of decision tree about whether they trust the system more than the person or group of people. So this is literally my favorite quote of the last, well, and we'll call it the post-ChatGPT era that we're in right now. At a conference that I was at 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that, someone in the software industry who's been doing this for 25 years but has their degree in artificial intelligence back before it was cool, in the 90s, 80s, something like that, said the best AI is no UI. And what do we mean by that? That means the person is not interfacing with anything. There's nothing to be done. The AI is doing something that the person would ordinarily be doing. So that is a catchphrase, but it actually means something because this is sort of the way the world is trending. Now, why do I have a search bar as a slide? Is this a glitch, or did I put the wrong picture up? And what does 80-20, 50-50, or 0-100 mean? These are not batting averages. These are not free throw percentages. 80-20, if you think about the way that most software is being designed and developed right now, that's not the 80-20 rule, although that kind of works now that I think about it. But if you think about the way most software interfaces are being developed right now, 80% of the platform is the old product, the existing product, and 20% is some stream or feed where you can prompt the system to find the information that you want. So it's very still oriented around the existing system and what was bought, and 20% is you interacting with it to pull out the information you need. At some point, we're going to move more toward 50-50, where you're looking at less of the system and you're just simply engaging with it through some type of search engine or prompt bar, something like that. At some point, it will be 0-100, and your entire enterprise system might look something like this bar. And you say, where's my container, Kate? Well, it's here. Kate is my mythical agent right now, my AI agent that's helping you solve that problem. And that's the answer to you interfacing with the system. It's not sort of a clunky spreadsheet-looking thing. It's not a system that looks like an ERP from the 90s. It's literally just a taskbar, and you ask an agent to go retrieve information for you. We're obviously not there yet. We're probably there yet. We're probably already there from a programming perspective, but from a us using it perspective, we're probably not there yet. So how we get there is becoming better at prompting systems. And I think if any of you are in corporations or have done any sort of training around AI, you've undoubtedly done some training to tell you how to prompt better. You may even have some sort of class or educational module that you can take to become better prompters. I know my company has been bombarding me with solicitations for these types of trainings. Use this, prompt this way, prompt this way. This is going to be now a fundamental part of the way that we do business if you interact with software, which is most of us, unless we're doing some sort of construction work or something like that, or driving a truck. Right? Even driving a truck, you're going to be probably prompting the telematics system in your truck when you're parked rather than calling someone to find out if a receiving facility is open or if there's a car accident on the highway ahead of you. So prompting excellence is going to be kind of a given, a price of entry for any sort of desk job or even in the field job in the future. So hopefully these are just some of the things that I was thinking about as I was hoping to be helpful to this audience about like where we're at from a logistics technology perspective and the use of AI. We're in a really exciting time. It's also terrifying. So if you're scared or unclear about anything, you are so not alone, it's not even funny. I'm also right there with you, but hopefully you're all learning as much as I am on a week-to-week basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. And again, another round of applause for all three of our presenters today. A lot of great information, and hopefully everyone's taken something out from today's talk. We do have some panel questions, but I do want to invite the audience to participate as much as possible. There's got to be questions out there that you have. I know I have them. And we've got 3 experts that can share their insights and their thoughts. I want to start with a general question for all 3. Looking ahead 5 years, what role will AI play in redefining the transportation and logistics ecosystem? And what advice would you give to the states like North Carolina who want to be early adopters? Kate, I'll start with you.
Sure. So I think in 5 years, you're going to see people using resources more efficiently, as I had referenced in my overview. Really more having analytics. So taking the data that's being given and presenting solutions instead of having people data pulling. So that's really what's going to, I think, be important is the critical thinking skills. So you're able to drive solutions from the data that's being presented. I think what North Carolina can do on a couple different segments is, number one, of course, education of AI, doing it within schools so they understand how AI will generate and they can use and have some of that critical thinking, knowledge being built back up. But I think for the state as well, learning that what ways you can start to aggregate data to help give more of indices of what's going to happen, whether it's weather, whether it's road closures, using those data endpoints that might not talk to each other to provide a holistic solution to people in terms of how it'll impact their lives.
Thank you. Perez?
So from my perspective, it's really going to be the intersections of AI and the physical world, as I kind of alluded in my presentation. I definitely see more and more decisions taken by the system rather than giving the options or overwhelming the users with too many problems that occur, especially when you're looking at supply chain, for example. We always looked into visibility system. That was the topic of the year or for many years until recently. And everybody wants visibility. Where is my container? Or I think in the TPM conferences, we have visibility, everybody wanted. But even when we gave visibilities to people, this is where your container is, what do you do with that? Especially when you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of containers per year moving, how can you even handle that? So exceptions was, let's deal only with exceptions. Now, exceptions to a 10,000 could be also a very large number of problems that occur, and you're still overwhelmed and you can't do anything with that, and you're just still unhappy. So at the end of the day, I see that AI can, if you remember the example of the MIT or what Kate talked about, Prism, this is right now is done in a level of, yes, this is a suggestion, try to do that, but what if the moment that there is an exception, the AI take over, unless it's very, very narrow, small amount of problems that really cannot be solved, everything is actually being suggested and solved by AI and reroute things and moving it around. I see that happening very, very soon when people started to adopt the AI and connected it. So agentic AI, physical AI is kind of where things will take us to.
Thank you. Eric?
So, let me address the early adopter and the role North Carolina wants to play first. So, sort of along the lines of what Erez said, a software provider told me a few years ago that he could present 3 scenarios to a human. One, the human just makes a decision based on its information. A human makes a decision based on a recommendation that a sophisticated system provides, or you could just let the system decide. And he said invariably the system would decide the best outcome. And the question was, are you able to take your hands off the wheel and let the system kind of make the decision, or are you in one of those, cars when you're in driver's ed where the instructor can take over the steering wheel if you're about to careen into another car, right? And you have the veneer of being in control. So as soon as I think we start to recognize the places where we need to have control and the places we don't, I think that's part of the early adoption phase of this, is like we don't need to be in control of absolutely everything. We do definitely need to be in control of some things. The other aspect I'd say in terms of where we'll be in 5 years, a lot of the discussion right now is not what if we hand this off to an AI agent to do this work or this workflow or connect these two things. It's more, how do we connect that agent with an agent in another system in a party that's outside of our set of systems? So agent to agent kind of stuff. And you can imagine how quickly things happen when it's a system talking to another system rather than a system waiting for a human to respond, much less a human waiting for a human to respond. So the pace of this is going to quicken, I would say, very quickly within, I don't know, it won't even be 5 years, I suspect.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Eric, maybe a follow-up question.
Sure.
You report across various segments of the transportation logistics industry. Are you seeing one segment faster on the uptake versus others?
Ooh, good question. Well, I would say third-party logistics providers. So these are companies, I mean, Maersk is definitely a third-party logistics provider, but also has assets. So has a little bit of a differentiated kind of capability there. But third-party logistics providers, especially that don't have assets, nor do they own the cargo, sort of have no choice but to look at this. So back to the point I made earlier about, you invest in technology to expand your market or to become more efficient. Very few things do both. So I see 3PLs and the landscape of software providers, especially AI-based software providers now, catering to 3PLs is exploding right now. Because I think every 3PL has to have their eyes open to how they can become more efficient internally, but also what they need to provide to their customer.
Thank you. So another question for all three. Resistance to change is a recurring issue. We talk about training. In your experience, what's the most effective way to ensure frontline employees embrace AI as a tool rather than fear it as a replacement? And Kate, I'll start again with you.
Sure. So this was a challenge that we had to combat head on. A lot of it was really involving the front line in the journey, allowing them to play and learn how to use AI, and then coach about, if you embrace this, then you'll be able to do other more value-added things. I don't know too many people that love every day pulling the same report every single day that normally has a snafu, that normally requires some manipulation. So highlighting the benefits of what we could do to help fill that time for them, that now that they don't have to spend pulling reporting, we can then train them on how to think more constructively, think more critically, be more solutions engineering. So to offer them a solutions of this is what we're taking away from you, but then this is also what we're giving you in return so you can help expand your own development.
The rest?
I think resistance to change is, especially when it comes to AI, comes from two main reasons. One, everybody hates change, right? We all do what we do, and we kind of want to repeat it. Oh, who moved my cheese, basically, right? So we don't like it, and as Kate mentioned, involving people early stage, let them design the system, let them be part of that, can help a lot. The second reason that people kind of resist that, they feel that sooner or later AI will replace them. And we keep hearing it again and again that, hey, this is going to be taking over my job. Why should I help it to become better than me? But I think most people here remember in the 70s when the ATM came to the world and helped really our life to be much easier when we need cash. Instead of waiting in lines in the bank, we just go in. And it was a big drama at that time with the bank, the tellers working for the banks. They're, we're not going to have jobs. The banks will fire all the people. True, the banks kind of get rid of all the tellers people, but on the other hand, they gave so many other jobs because now they can open micro branches and small branches everywhere. So I don't think they have less people employed by the banks today. Actually, it's way more than before. They become way more richer than before. But that's what's going to happen. It's not that you're going to be fired because of AI, but potentially some of the repetitive tasks will be replaced. But that's where you can be doing something else or starting to learn other things. So if you open mind to develop and evolve, there's nothing to be scared of AI. Now, of course, you can't just simply tell that to everybody in the front line because not everybody, but you can actually show them. I remember we had an example. Eric was talking about Boston Dynamics, which has an amazing solution. We developed some work with them and installed it in the warehouse. And basically, some of the people that before that was carrying boxes and moving one by one, and that job became a robot hand that doing that, we let them become the supervisor of the robots and actually managing those robots and taking care of all the different exceptions that the robots have, because robots will never do it perfectly. They came back after a few months of work, and I remember I met them again. I asked, how do you like the job? They said, it's the first time I'm proud to go to my son kindergarten and tell what I'm actually doing for a living. Before that, I was actually ashamed to do that. Not ashamed, but just not happy. There's nothing unique about it. And suddenly I'm in the conversations of every dinner and talking to people. I'm running stuff like that. So I think that can help when you involve people in such ways to change their attitude.
Plus, his back probably didn't hurt as much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So financial is one. I mean, no one talks about it, but you can motivate people to adopt systems by tying it to their bonus. Like that's not the best plan, but I've definitely heard about it and seen it. I think to Kate's point, the company, whether it's AI or any technology, most companies need to do a better job of explaining to their employees why they've invested in something, what they plan to get out of it, and be truthful. The truth will come out at some point anyway. So if you lay a bunch of people off 5 months after you install something, it was clear that you wanted to get rid of them anyway, and this was the way to do it. If you are upfront with them and tell them we have too many people doing this task, and it's not valuable enough, we don't get return on that, so we need to change something. People will they will hate it, but they'll appreciate it more than coaching a system that eventually takes them out of a job, and they weren't told that was the situation. So you have to tell people why you're investing in a system, that you owe it to them, I would say, as a company.
Thank you. So another question for all three of you. Many AI pilots work well in one location, but struggle when scaled across an entire network. From your perspective, what makes a difference between a proof of concept that stays small and one that transforms a business? Okay.
Yeah, so I think we've run so many proof of concepts that looked great and cool, but then when we did try to scale it to other locations, didn't have the same parameters, didn't have the same needs, so the return and the output wasn't as robust as it needed to be. So I think really when you start on an AI journey, you need to actually take a step back and look at your data ecosystem and determine if it talks to each other and what decisions you need to make actually further upstream to align your data so it talks, so it gets that maximum benefit from it. So there is a little bit of planning you have to do, some investments you might need to do in sunsetting systems, changing systems so you can get the maximum benefit. And that's really just making sure you have a strategic roadmap. So for instance, in some of our truck terminals, for instance, we do a lot of what we call dual twinning, where we'll have, or dual modeling, where we'll run a program that says, this would be our most perfect dispatch plan that we'll do, and then it'll help maximize our trucks and our efficiencies and our turns. And then throughout the day, the dispatchers are physically changing that plan based off of the port's been delayed for 6 hours, this happened. But there's other terminals that aren't so robust, and you don't need to have that. You need something slightly different. Or some terminals where we'll use screen grabs to get terminal appointments. Other terminals that don't have appointments don't need that technology. So I think it's also being honest about the operating environment of where you want to roll it out, and not every business case is fit for purpose in every location.
I saw it happening quite a lot, both in my Maersk day, but also with the startups I'm working today, that people coming up with ideas, amazing, and they're like, oh, let's run a proof of concept. And as Brian said, basically it dies there. Nothing happened after that, even if it was successful. I think the main problem here is that people forget to look at the bigger pictures. And you have to look at the bigger picture, because when you try to solve something, if it's solving an amazing problem that is only isolated to one place or maybe two, that's it. That's where it's going to stay. Even if that problem is great here and small there, it's not going to be multiplying later on. So anytime we ran a proof of concept, we kind of insisted, okay, what is the proof of concept testing? It's not testing what will be, is it success, the technology, yes or no. We kind of see the technology most of the time before that and understand that the chance to be successful is high. But we want to see that what we feel that the problem we are trying to solve in the macro level is actually going to be solved, but we're testing it in one location. We involve people from other places, from other spots, to be sure that, yes, it's the same problems that they're having, and make sure that they involve, at least as a viewer and somebody that's looking and watching from the outside, how is this problem being solved? And then when you actually solve that, you already at the first stage, you say, okay, if I'm successful here and this is my criteria to be successful, I'm already moving to second and third and fourth place immediately without waiting. There's not going to be another conversations of convincing, etc. That's kind of allowing startups company and people that helping you with those technologies to grow faster as well, so they can actually survive and not collapse along the way when you're running proof of concept with them.
Yeah, a little bit more to that point. It's somewhat of a simplistic thing to do, but look at where your biggest areas of spend are. Look at where most FTE spend is accumulated. What is the biggest problem area across your business? And start there rather than there's a cool product that is cool to use, but to both your points, it only solves a little bit of a problem in a small area. Actually, the other way I'd look at this also is the promise of AI and the promise of what's going on right now, especially on the software development side, where, by the way, developers are using super advanced tools to generate code way faster than they ever have. So they can spin up prototypes and products. Even people like me who can't code, I can put together a really crude version of a product and then hand it off to a developer and say, build this. You shouldn't necessarily have to think about something not scaling, about something potentially scaling globally or across a whole organization. You could build something that's relatively small that addresses a specific problem or specific need. Theoretically, I don't think we're quite there yet, and it still has to work out monetarily for the company that's building these things, but there is the promise of that potentially kind of being the scenario.
Okay, maybe a quick follow-up question for you. You gave a great presentation on Maersk's end-to-end solution. And from the trucking end of it, any other use cases that you can share?
Yeah, great question, Brian. So a lot of what we use AI for, at least in the trucking space, is really trying to aggregate all the customer needs and how we overlay that with our trucking capacity. So this customer wants a live unload at 2 o'clock in the afternoon versus this customer that wants a drop and pick and take a container. They're 2 miles apart. So it really helps us try to figure out some triangulation opportunities, which makes us more efficient in how we operate our assets. We also use it to almost develop that perfect day in the life of a truck driver in terms of his dispatch plan, and then the actual dispatchers are the ones that are adjusting that plan based off of the reality of the day. And then we try to then coach some of our machine learning models back into pulling in those things that they didn't calculate when they developed that perfect day. It also then enables us to have really lean staff to be able to actually scale up and open up new trucking terminals pretty quick, because we're actually able to use some of these models and have someone monitor the dispatch plans and the models, say sitting in Mobile, but they're also then able to help operate our terminal in Memphis because we use models to help. So it does help us co-use staff. It helps us scale up quickly if we do have to do some customer projects and plans that we don't have an actual physical terminal there to support.
Thanks, Kate.
Let me add on top of that, something very, very interesting I saw recently. We developed it before, and Maersk is actually using that. digital twin. And it's very, very interesting into the trucking industry. Definitely encourage people here to look into that. Digital twin is another branch in the beautiful tree that Eric put on the slide there of AI. It's basically a replica of the real world. Now, it's coming to us from the side of manufacturing that want to see how systems works, how machines works. But when you take it into a service industry, you can actually make a lot of interesting stuff. And what we did, basically, we split it into three segments in order, as we said before, you want to be successful fast and move to the next level show so you can actually get attraction. So first was, okay, let's bring a visibility of what exists, every container, every trailer, every truck, every driver, where are they? What is the aging of that? Because, you remember you have detention demurrage. I'm sure some people here pay that and hate that before, so it's definitely something that nobody likes. So you start with that instead of going into 13 different systems that they used to go before, actually going to one place and see it all there. That's by itself return and very nice investment. You move to stage number 2 and you said, okay, if I'm dispatching with people that some of them experience and some of them are not, am I getting the optimum level? So let the system actually build optimization level here. Let the system design what is this dispatch based on multiple criteria that you design in the beginning, and allowing that to actually increase your capacity and utilization of the same system. And then you really come to stage number 3, which is the real digital twin here, and it says, what if scenarios? I have now a new customer. I have the same system. What do? Do I actually need to bring more truck, more drivers, or can I actually push it within the system? So you run a real simulation with the real data, with your current actually movements, and you plug in your new business and you say, okay, can I handle it? No, let's add one truck, and this is potentially your cost that you should charge the customer for this new business. Instead of just, okay, market level, this is what I want, and then a few months later you realize that you either lose the business because you're too expensive, or you actually lose money because you were just forcing market level. So doing all that things can really change the game in the trucking industry, which I know it's still operated very much in the way that it used to be operated in many, many years back, and that can actually change the game.
Thanks, Rez. I do want to go off script a little bit and open up for some audience questions. Get the audience engaged. Any burning questions that you want to ask? We do have a microphone around the room somewhere. Oh, there it is right there. And we have a question right here.
On. So I have a question. It's an open-ended question. Any of you can answer. So what kind of a change do you think this AI adoption will work to the workforce? And how do workers or the organizations prepare for it?
I'm not sure anybody's totally prepared for it yet. I'm guessing there's some people who are think that it's going to be extremely transformational and not necessarily in a fun way to deal with. My presumption is it will be quite disruptive. We just don't know how yet, and we don't know how well we as people and government, for instance, has a huge role to play in this, how we will all adapt to that. I definitely take Erez's long view that every industrial revolution humans have come out the other side the better for it, right? And I think this is also one of those scenarios, but it could be quite a lot of upheaval in the short term, just because a lot of companies are publicly traded and they have a mandate to have a profit margin, and come hell or high water, that profit margin needs to be hit, right? And so this is a tool now that wasn't necessarily there and is very developed and sophisticated. So yeah, I would say very bumpy in the short term, but good over a long period of time.
I will add just on Eric what he says is I believe it will also help us with tasks that are very repetitive. Mm-hmm. People that doing day in, day out the same task and just getting tired from doing that can actually easily be converted to AI and let the people either monitor things or take different elements that actually improving their life when they do that work. So I see that kind of view as well, but I also see that there is a potential angle to actually remember that story with the guy the lady actually that was going back home and telling, yeah, I'm now in a better job. It can do that as well.
Fewer backaches and less carpal tunnel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I see a bit of a less of a need for some of like the global resource centers. So some of those really big, off systems, in India, for instance, that support some of that manual work that's being done and really being able to embrace AI and then really coaching people on how you critically think. So much of it is the data is presented, then what do you do with it? So really teaching people how to think instead of just pull, I think will be really key. And so I think that those are some of the skill sets we need to develop.
Thank you. You had a question right there? Oh, question back there, sorry. We'll come to you next.
Hi, question for Kate. You guys can also answer if you want. I know you talked a little bit about autonomous trucks at the end of your line. I was wondering if is that just in your yard, or are they also going out on the roadway, and maybe percentages of autonomous versus general commercial vehicle, or what you see on that in the future?
Sure. So Mercer right now, we don't have any active autonomous trucks on the road. So a lot of what we do is for yard management. So closed loop situations that help kind of move empty containers. Have we explored? Are we looking at it? Of course, to stay ahead of the curve. But do we have any in active mode right now? No.
There are trucks, of course, out there that are doing autonomously on the road. Level 4, level 5, somewhere in between that. Some of them prove level 5 already, so fully autonomous. But of course, there is so many other elements in an environment that you have users versus a closed environment that you can control. So it will take a little bit more time there.
That was going to be half of my question. Thank y'all. It was kind of an opinion on that aspect as well as the trains or even the liners. What's your opinion on that all going automated? The ships coming with all the time frames extended to that, or was that always going to have a human element for storms or all the uncertainty?
I think there's always a little bias. I'm a shipping gal, right? I started my time in the maritime industry, but I think you've seen a definitely downgrade of the amount of crew that's needed to support, ships. Some of the big liners, maybe only have a skeleton crew of 10 to 12 people. So I think you're always going to need that human element to step in, but what you will start to see is some of the number of crew needed on each of those liner ships will go down.
You're probably going to see an autonomous ships in the short hauls and the kind of a domestic or intra-same continent, but long haul, there's no reason with 10 people for that amount of containers that you can take on the ship. The cost of the human is nothing there, so it's not much.
It looked like your map that you showed up there with the transportation from China going around to England was straight line around Africa and then through the Suez Canal dotted line. Is that the best hope in case, but mostly is one around Africa?
So right now, at least the Maersk current network is to go around the Cape of Good Hope, really just due to some of the security parameters. We do hope in one day we'll be able to use the Suez. It saves a whole lot of gas. But right now, we have to be mindful of our customer and specifically our crew and their safety.
Thanks. Largely, everything we've seen so far has been largely devoid of policy. Like, you're in the private sector, you've got a lot of freedom, you have a fully contained system, things are kind of just able to do as you want. Looking forward, what policies would you want to see in place to help? And then which policies would you recommend people don't put in place to have this succeed from your perspective so far?
You want to start?
Sure. I mean, Kate mentioned it. I think it's incumbent upon governments to help their constituents, whether it's a local or federal, understand what jobs of the future are going to entail. That's almost impossible to know, but not doing anything is not an option, I don't think, anymore. So helping, people, I think it works probably best on a local level, because there's obviously the makeup of a population in a local area is going to be a little more homogeneous than if you look at it at a national or even a state level. So I would like to see like AI aptitude sort of come through in education systems, and obviously retraining people where jobs are at risk. Honestly, I don't know. A lot of the jobs that are at risk right now are not things that people need a ton of training to do necessarily. So it's more, rather than retraining, it's training them to do something that's potentially more interesting once these systems take hold a little bit more. But yeah, I think governments should be looking at this as like an active role in this rather than just a passive observer, for sure.
And I will add on top of that is the speed of reaction. I think in the past, government normally took way longer time to kind of approve things and regulate things, and sometimes you're too late by the time that you come up with something. So really, this is a momentum that moving, a snowball that moving very, very fast. You have to act fast. And the example I gave with autonomous rail before, I know that they exist probably 5-6 years. They only got the Federal Rail Administration approval just early this year. It took so many years, and that's kind of pushing things to be developed faster. So definitely there is reasons why they're delayed, but consider all the different approach slightly in a shorter time. That would be a great request to have from governments.
I think too, just from a governance standpoint, having governance. Right now, there is not a lot of governance with it. So having that honest conversation on what the governance profile looks like and having that as soon as possible. If people want it, they find a way to get it. And sometimes how they get it is not in the most correct way, not the most ethical way. So if your consumer, taking a little bit from the private sector, if the consumer is giving you an indication of demand, they want it. So the public sector is giving that indication. The public is saying they want to embrace AI. So how do you jump on board and get those governance standards in place as soon as possible?
Any other audience questions? Got one in the back.
Somebody there?
So it sounds like a lot of the ones we've been talking about are systems that are specific for your organization. And when we're providing a service, some of the challenges that we look at from AI is proprietary information, data, security. So there's a lot of concern about how we, approach utilizing AI. Any thoughts or challenges that y'all have run into? Because I know y'all have customers, so you've got data and all that. Any thoughts or anything on security and that with AI?
We were actually talking before we went on stage. We were talking about how my company does not allow us to use OpenAI or any of the public models because we have proprietary data. We have our own data. We have our customers' data. So we use an internal model that I don't even know how to rate it against the public ones in terms of effectiveness, but we have to use it. So yeah, governance around that is critical, like beyond critical. And there's ways to manage a system where you are sharing information or sharing output from a model with an outside organization. You can govern, restrict access to that or permission certain things. I mean, anything is possible. Technically, anything is possible. It's really about, do you have a governance in place to make sure that a model is not getting access to data it shouldn't, or incorrect data, or, yeah.
I think data was always a key for many, many years, even before AI was a topic, and people that have the data was controlling certain information and they had certain capabilities. I think what the AI is helping us is actually that you're less and less dependent on structures of data. So now you can, before even within one company, you need to connect multiple systems, and it was like a nightmare to create a data lake there because that details, and here in the next system, the same shipment detail, maybe not even talking to each other, and there's no reference point. Now you can actually use AI to abstract, take data from multiple sources. So it's opened the door for you to take some public data, and it opened the door for you to put like IoT device or other things that can actually deliver the data to you through different sources. So I see it as a problem, but I feel that slowly we'll get somehow out of that problem. So it's going to become better and better in the future.
We have an employee code of conduct that we're only able to use our internal AI, and then there's severe ramifications if we don't. We had a pretty brutal cyber attack about 10 years ago that brought our full global company to our knees, so we're very in tune with data protection, privacy, and who we interconnect with.
Okay, no other questions from the audience. Maybe I'll close with one, and Rez, this is for you specifically, since you've worn a couple different hats in your career. You've worn a corporate hat with Maersk and the startup hat. What unique challenges, advantages do you see in each environment?
I like that one. Thank you. So definitely in a large corporation, you have huge backbone. You have the money. You have the data, as we just spoke about, and you have enough people that you can run a lot of projects. But on the other sides, bureaucracy is almost like in a government, and some of you might understand that if you're working for government.
Sometimes slower.
Sometimes, yes, sometimes worse. Definitely difficult to run projects. Some projects that a startup might do in 2 to 3 months could take 3 to 4 years just before you need to discuss, before the discussion on what you're going to discuss in the next discussion. So it's kind of all over the place. So there is a plus and minuses on the corporate side. Startup world, very nimble, can move very fast. Of course, they need money to run, because otherwise they fail at the end of the day. So if they know how to sell their idea on a bigger level, in the bigger picture, they definitely going to get the money, and we see quite a lot of startup gets hundreds of millions of dollars in investment in order for them to make it happen. They sometimes have the same problems that we discussed just a second ago, access to data, access to information, so they can build a beautiful system, but very difficult to that. So there is definitely plus and minuses in each side to develop. In my mind, the collaboration between corporation and startups is the best way forward, and that's how we actually ran things in the innovation center at Maersk before, and that's why I actually moved to this side of the business and investing in startup, because I saw how this problem is actually a lot of large corporations know we want to own the software, we want to own the proprietary elements here, we want to have everything in our hand, but then it takes them 5 years and nothing happens. So that kind of collaboration, making sure that you find the right partner, right team to work with in a startup can actually push very, very fast development of technology. So that's kind of it.
Can I just add something? Something I see very interesting in my world, where I'm covering software companies that cater to Maersk and its customers and the 3PLs, is you have a set of existing incumbent software companies who have been using AI but haven't been branding it as AI. Their programmers have been using it for years, and the product people have been using it for years, but it was never something you put out into the open. The last few years, you have a whole bunch of companies that are AI first, quote unquote. And so you have existing software providers, and for that matter, 3PLs and forwarders that develop their own tech, sort of having to rebrand and re-architect all of their systems to put AI at the core of it. So you have this very interesting kind of battle going on between large software companies that are very embedded in the industry, and then upstarts that are saying, those are old, we built our AI in the last 2 years, so it must be better. The existing companies have the advantage of not just being embedded, but having probably more subject matter expertise and having connectivity to all the different companies that they need to be connected to. It's really fascinating to watch kind of the marketing battle that's going on around this too, because that's obviously a big part of it.
Thank you. I'm going to close the panel now. I'd like to give our panelists another round of applause. taking the time out of your schedules to join us and share your insight into what's obviously very exciting and going to be an interesting topic to follow over the years. So, and I'll invite David back on the stage.
I'll just stay here. Magnificent panel. I tell you, thank y'all for sharing your knowledge with us, and you obviously also have a passion for artificial intelligence. So thank you for letting us absorb some of that passion. I know I'm really knowledgeable educational aspect of it. So thank you. That ends our session. We'll take a 30-minute break and reconvene in the main ballroom for the 3:30 general session. Thank you all also for coming and being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you so much.
I think we're still on here.